know that it's been a really long day. I am a mom to an 11-year-old girl who has college in 6 CMD. I've been on the board of Cure CMD for 7 years now, working closely with Pat and previously Anna to try to build the organization to where it is today. So, feel free to ask me at any time more about the history of the org or my kid or anything of that nature. And this is Diane Smith-Hoban. Do you want to say a couple words? Yeah.
I'm Diane Smith-Hoban. My son Luke is 21. He was on one of the panels earlier, and I've been involved with Cure CMD since the beginning, before it was even Cure CMD. I was part of Cure CMD. And I'm going to talk a little bit just about our social community, the Facebook community, and being connected to each other. Do you want me to just kind of go into that now? Okay. So I think just about everybody knows that we have a pretty active Facebook community. There's multiple pages. There's the Cure CMD support group page, and then there's subtype support group pages. So please make sure, if you haven't already done so, that you're a member of both of those. And I encourage you that if you post something, if you have a question that's disease specific, to post it in your subtype group, but also there's a lot of commonalities and information in the community at large, and to post that on the general group as well. We have a lot to learn from each other and refer to each other. There was a conversation last night in the veteran parents group about making sure that we support each other. So if somebody puts out something and nobody's replying, to reply to posts, like let's keep it active, even if it may not necessarily apply to you, to kind of try to find a way to respond so that people, because generally, I know for me, if I get to the point where I'm putting something out there on the group, it's because I need something. And even if you don't have the information, just some sort of connection, like I hear you, I see you, I acknowledge you, I think can be really helpful for our community in that regard. So does everybody pretty much have Facebook at this point? I know that some people are Facebook opposed, and I completely 100% get that. But it is the platform that we're using for social connection with each other. So if you don't want to say Facebook page for like your life, you can make it under a pseudonym and join the groups. And if you let us know who you are, we'll approve you to join the group, so your friends don't have to know that you have Facebook, but your Cure CMD community will know. We'll keep that stealth for you. Susan Lee Miller is up here. Susan has a really wonderful skill set of finding people. And so she's done, she has Google Alerts set where for all different kind of keywords related to the congenital muscular dystrophy community, and she gets Google Alerts when things come up in articles or stories or whatever, and then she kind of puts on her hat and she tracks these people down. And she's great. If you give her, I don't know, like an hour and 2 pieces of information, and she can find pretty much anybody. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, but one of the things that's important about that is to get people connected to our community, obviously, for the support, for the Facebook pages, for all that, but also for the registry, because we know that there's power in numbers. So you join, becoming part of the community means, signing up and coming to conferences and feeling an identity and all that stuff, but it's also your membership is not truly complete until you are part of the registry. So that's part of what Susan sort of does, is by finding people who might be floating out there with a diagnosis, but if they're not connected to us and we don't know about them, that needs to happen. So yeah.
Just in addition, one thing, I've also been involved in this longer, than a lot of people, but in the early days, what I did was I made business cards with Cure CMD in my name. And, it's a little more delicate when you visually see someone, but I have approached people, and, especially with my son who has an obvious disease, he uses a wheelchair, to go over and ask them, could you be a part of this community possibly? And I have found people that way, just, when they see us and we see them, and it's obvious that we're on the same team. So I know that's a little more delicate, but little and old school, but as well as tracking people down online. And if I see an article in a newspaper online, and just contacting the reporter if I can't find the person, and just say, could you pass on my information? And then just asking, are you aware of Cure CMD? And sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And when they're not, it opens a whole door that, obviously we're all aware of how isolating it can be when you don't know we exist. So I just wanted to say that part of it.
Susan's her own traveling clinic. She identified somebody and diagnosed them pretty much in the Boston Children's Museum or the aquarium. Yeah. She approached a family and said, "Hi, do you mind if I..." And sure enough, they're now part of our community. And also, both of our sons play wheelchair hockey, and we travel for tournaments, and we like to call ourselves, the unauthorized Cure CMD traveling clinic, because we'll see players and we're like, and then, so Alex, who some of you met here today, was part of our unauthorized traveling clinic and got a diagnosis thanks to Susan. So, our community spreads in lots of different ways, but the important part that it does, that we do that. So if you make a connection, even if you see a newspaper article and you don't feel like you have the skill set, just send it to Susan. I'm volunteering her right here now. She'll be happy to kind of use her well-developed detective skills to try and just with the goal of building our community and helping us find each other.
So just one last thing. I'm sure many folks have noticed that we've updated our website in the last year. This is something we've been working on for a little while, and obviously, we don't have a large budget, so it's something that largely Rachel and I pulled together along with the help of some folks who wrote a lot of the content that's on the site. Please do give us feedback. As we're going through the process of updating the site, we did have to discard a lot of out-of-date content that was sort of, because obviously, the research moves along quite quickly, and scientific medical techniques move along quite quickly. So some of the stuff we also did have to discard along the way were some older stories and things like that from the patient community, in part because we didn't necessarily have up-to-date consents and stuff to use some of that information. So if you're interested in ever writing an article for the blog about just an experience you had, I was, for example, just thinking about, with Pat, writing something about my daughter's recent spinal fusion surgery, which just happened a month ago. I think those kinds of tidbits of wisdom from the community are always super helpful, whether it's through the social media channels or, just posted to our website for folks who, just want to kind of snoop in the background and understand how other people have handled it or understand what the full story looks like. So, if you've experienced something, whether it's about your transitions to adulthood, going to college, finding a job, some accessibility issue that you're raving mad about, please do write something about it. We're happy to publish that because I think those are the kinds of things we all learn from each other about. And feel free to contact either myself, Diane, Susan, or Rachel. We're happy to take in that content either from the science and clinician side or from the community. So I just wanted to let you know it's another way you can also contribute to the dialogue that we have with the public at large and also with each other. So just wanted to put that out there. And one last little plug that is completely unrelated, but I just wanted to say it because I know we have a lot of young adults in the room today. I was actually super excited to see how many people were involved in political advocacy for one way or another for our community. Another thing that I haven't seen from this community that I'm particularly excited about, but I'd like to see more folks engaged in, is understanding as well how technology can happen and help our community. I happen to work at Google, and we have pretty substantial efforts to improve accessibility of technology for communities like our own, the deaf community, the blind community, et cetera. So I just wanted to put it out there. If you have challenges that you want to ask the technology community to work on, bring those up. Feel free to get involved. And there are amazing careers on the West Coast. I know there's a lot of people here on the East Coast. Amazing careers on the West Coast for folks, whether or not you have disabilities, but you have an interest in the space, to get involved in designing features, very interesting things like voice inputs on mobile phones in the space. So we just wanted to expand our reach. It's not only advocating in the political space, but advocating to corporations and other folks who have really meaningful impact on our lives. And it's just like a last little plug I wanted to put in before we end the conference. So with that, I'll give it to Pat to wrap.